Hello, everybody, and welcome to the end of year stats for 2024. 2024 was the first year where I changed from trying to use all of my generated energy myself to just exporting as much of it as I can. So this year's results will look a little bit different than previous years. I would guess that I will see a significant change in terms of the amount of energy that I have kept. Normally, in my previous years of videos, by the end of the year, I'm probably looking at about 10% exported, 90% kept. This year, I'm expecting to see quite a big difference to that. It won't be all exported because I only got onto the or off the deemed export and onto the actual export about 3/4 of the way through the year, or 2/3 of the way through the year. So it was only for that last part that I started exporting everything. So for the first part of the year, I was using everything that I could. And obviously this will change the off-grid streaks that we're used to seeing in these videos from my previous years. I see if I break any records in terms of the number of consecutive days where we don't pull anything from the grid, well, that's obviously going to change from here on because I'll be pulling from the grid every day now, because I charge the batteries up every night, so that all the energy I generate from the solar in the day just gets exported, because it's just financially better to do that. Until such time as Octopus take away the 15 pence per kilowatt hour export tariff that they currently pay, this is what I'll probably be doing. But I don't envisage them keeping that forever. One day I think they will drop it or reduce it right down, in which case I might go back to the way I was working before and trying to use as much as possible. So yeah, that's going to be a difference this year. But let's have a look at the figures and see where we're at. So we generated a total of 7,267 kilowatt hours in 2024. That compares to 7,762 kilowatt hours in 2023. So we're about half a megawatt hour down from the previous year, and I guess that's down to just difference in the weather for 2024 versus 2023. Obviously there'll be a small amount of degradation on the whole of my system to some extent, but not enough to account for that. So I think that's almost certainly going to be down to less really sunny days. So here is a bar chart that shows generation by month, broken down by inverter, and it's the usual story. It seems like we had a pretty good August. That peak in August is almost the same height as the one in July. So we must have had a pretty sunny August, and it looks like we had a really good January as well. It's actually higher than February. So January must have been a pretty sunny, relatively speaking, month in 2024. And the only other thing of note here is the yellow bars here, which represent my Growatt 2 kilowatt inverter output. Those are connected to my vertical panels that are on the south wall of my house, and you can see that the peaks on there are different than the normal solar, where it starts low in January, gets to its peak in around June, and then goes back down to to its lowest again in December. With the vertical panels, you sort of get the peaks around April, and then again around August. So it sort of goes up a bit, and then it goes down again in the middle of summer because the sun's so high that it's striking the panels at such a steep angle that the output actually drops a bit. And then as it starts to go lower again, you get the better output, and then it gets too low that the days are getting shorter, and there's a few trees and things that start to cast shadows and things. So, but those vertical panels really do help in the winter months. Give me a bit of extra boost for those grey winter days. Just get a little bit more juice. Here is the graph for 2023, and you can see that in 2023, actually, July was not nearly as good. It's much lower. Other than that, it's a more traditional graph. You know, January is less than February, is less than March, etc. Unlike 2024, where January is actually more than February. So our best day was on the 30th of April, and on that day we generated 53.9, so almost 54 kilowatt hours, and that's pretty much, yeah, the most I've seen. I think 54, 55 is really a completely perfect day, and you can see from the graph here that yeah, it was almost a completely unbroken day. Just one little blip just past midday, but other than that, a really nice, glorious day. And yeah, 54 kilowatt hours. That's pretty good. Our worst day was on the 1st of December, and on that day we generated just 0.8 kilowatt hours. And here is the graph for that day. If you can see it, it's yeah, very low. Not very much to speak of at all. But look at the difference between, you know, a bad day in winter and the best day in summer. Not even 1 kilowatt hour compared to 54 kilowatt hours. That's just a huge difference. Here is a pie chart showing the amount of the energy that we generated, how much of it we kept, and how much of it was exported. Now, this is what I was saying at the beginning of the video. Normally, in previous years, you would have seen something a bit more like this. So this is the one for 2023. And because I used to try and use as much of my energy as possible, I used to have around a 90% self-use, and just about 10% or less actually got exported. Whereas now, this is the situation. So we've managed to use 57% this year, but for the remaining sort of 2/3 of the year since I've been on the Octopus export tariff, I've been exporting everything. So that's why we've got sort of a 42% being exported now. Next year, I will, assuming that the Octopus rates stay in place for the whole year, I will expect that to be pretty much a complete red blob next year. It will all be exported, and almost none of it will be self-used. But this year, yep, that's where we're at. Here is a graph showing our import for every day of last year. You can see we've got a few off-grid days around the sort of middle of the year and just before the middle of the year. There's quite a few there. But soon after that, there are none. And that's probably because we went on to the export thing, so I'd be filling up the battery every night from the grid, so there won't be any more off-grid days now. But there's yeah, really big one day there around near day number 300 where we imported a lot, over 120 kilowatt hours. Must have charged the cars and charged every battery and everything on that day. So yes, in total we imported 11 megawatt hours in 2024. That compares with just 7 megawatt hours in 2023. So a huge increase, and as I say, that's almost entirely, that difference is going to be almost entirely down to the fact that the last sort of third of the year, quarter of the year or so, I now charge the batteries up every night from the grid. But yeah, next year I would expect that to be even higher, because I will be doing what I'm doing now for the whole of the year instead of just for the last part. Now, in terms of vehicles, I used to have a petrol vehicle, but the last time we filled up with petrol was in 2022. So yeah, there's no petrol costs anymore. Not since May 2022. It's all electric. So let's have a look at how much electric we have used in terms of running the cars, and it's about 4.5 megawatt hours for the Tesla, and then about 1.5 megawatt hours in the Leaf. The Leaf is slowly degrading now. We can probably get about 50 miles out of it if you drive carefully at sort of 30-40 mile an hour speeds. I wouldn't even think of taking it on a long distance trip on the motorway. You'd probably only get about 35-40 miles at motorway speeds before you'd have to charge it. It just wouldn't make sense to do that. But for a little run around, for just going to the shops and popping here and there, it's still perfectly fine, and just not really worth replacing it at the moment. For all the longer trips, we use the Tesla, and even though it's just the standard range, it's not the long range version, we still don't really have any problems. The Tesla charging network is really good, and most of the time the car just navigates you to there. I've only had to wait maybe twice in all the time I've owned the car for a bit, and even then it's only been for maybe 10 minutes on those two occasions, but most of the time you go straight in, you can plug straight in and charge away. If we compare that to 2023, you can see it's very much the same story, not a huge difference. Now let's have a look at how much we've actually spent. So as far as the Tesla goes, we have spent about £324 charging that at home, and about £483 doing rapid charges out on the motorway network. And we don't charge up that often when we're out and about. We nearly always try and charge as much from home as possible, but it just goes to show the huge difference in price between what you can get charging at home, 7 pence in my case, and what you pay when you're out and about, which is probably sort of anywhere between 50 pence and 80 pence, depending on who you're charging with. I think it still works out a lot cheaper than petrol for the same amount of mileage that we're doing. I didn't actually take a reading from the car, so I can't honestly say how many miles we've done in the last year, but I would say it's probably on the order of somewhere between 15 and 20,000 miles. So the average price that we paid for all the energy that we imported in 2024 was 8.21 pence per kilowatt hour. So obviously the nighttime rate is 7 pence and the daytime rate is in the sort of early 20s pence per kilowatt hour. It's mostly made up of the nighttime rate, with just a few bits here and there where we've had to draw it at daytime rate levels that sort of nudged that up to 8 8.2 pence per kilowatt hour, but it's still pretty close to the 7 pence that is the night rate. So most of our energy is coming from that nighttime rate. If we look at the total amount per kilowatt hour for all the energy we've used, and this includes the energy that obviously we've generated ourselves for free, then the total energy use, we've paid effectively 5.98 pence per kilowatt hour, so almost 6 pence per kilowatt hour for all the energy averaged out. And that's obviously a huge saving compared with normal daytime rates of electricity. And yeah, really happy that we got all the solar, and yeah, it's really paid for itself probably more than a year ago now, maybe 2 years ago. It basically paid for itself, and so this is a big saving we're making. In 2024 we made £1,035 55 pence from the FIT scheme, which is down on 2023, where we made £1,126 and 63 pence, and that's because obviously I've removed the deemed export part of my FIT payments in favour of actual export, and that only happened in the last sort of third to last quarter of the year, and so I won't be being paid by the FIT scheme now for that deemed export part, which is why the value is a bit lower this year. But on the flip side, I have been being paid by Octopus for the energy that I've been actually exporting, and that accounts for £359 and 79 pence. So if you add the £359 to the £1,035, you get nearly £1,400, which is quite a bit more than 2023. So some of that will be due to the increase in the rate of the payment, because it goes up with inflation every year, but more of that will be due to the fact that I'm getting paid to a decent rate, 15 pence per kilowatt hour by Octopus to export. So definitely making more this way than just doing it the way I was doing it before. So in terms of total energy usage for the year, well, our electricity bill for the entire of 2024 was £1,152 and 10 pence, and our gas bill for the year was £860 and 74 pence, which gives a grand total of £2,012 and 84 pence, and that is our total energy bill for the year. So if we take that total energy usage for the year figure and we subtract from it all the payments that we received from the FIT scheme, from exporting energy to Octopus, from the freebies that we got during the energy saving sessions by exporting power at peak times, then the total cost to us for all the energy that we used in that entire year comes out to be £576, or 526 if you also include the one referral that I got this year as well, which would take another £50 off. But if we ignore that, because that's not sort of a normal situation as such, then just in terms of what I've earned and what I've spent, then £576 is my total energy costs for the year, and that includes running the 2 cars as well, albeit not the cost of rapid charging when we're out and about, which was £483. So if you add that on as well, that's the total cost for all energy use, just over £1,000 for all gas, all electric, and all fuel. So the total amount of energy that we used in 2024 was just over 15 megawatt hours. And compare that to 2023, where we used just over 14 megawatt hours. I don't think our usage has gone up that much. I think what that is that's counting the energy that I'm importing into the batteries at night, which I then later re-export back to the grid at the end of the day, or any of it that's left over. So it's not really usage in that sense. So I should probably try and modify my algorithm to cancel those two things out, so that it doesn't count as energy we've actually used as such. So yeah, I think that probably is what that is. I'll have to look into making that a more accurate figure for next year. Okay, well, that is it for 2024. Definitely been financially better to get off the deemed export of the FIT scheme and go on to actual metered export, especially with Octopus offering such generous export rates for my power. 15 pence per kilowatt hour is a game changer, really, especially with coupled with that sort of 7 pence nighttime rate that you can get for being on the intelligent Octopus Go. It just makes a lot more sense to buy electricity at 7 pence and sell all of my generated electricity at 15 pence. It's just a no-brainer, really. Like I say, I can't see Octopus keeping this up forever. I think they will change tack eventually. I can't see how they could keep this up, but while they are, I definitely will keep doing this. But as soon as they drop it down, especially if it goes below the level of the nighttime rate. In fact, just due to charging losses, etc. If it went sort of below 10 pence per kilowatt hour, it probably wouldn't make sense to charge the batteries up at night, because you do lose some energy in the charging process and discharging process. So I'd have to do some maths to work out exactly the threshold, but I would say it's somewhere around the sort of 10 pence mark. It probably wouldn't make sense to do that anymore, and it'd be better off for me to go back the way I was before and try and keep as much of my energy and use as much of my energy myself as I can. So we'll keep an eye on that, but for now I've got a guarantee until the end of my current 1-year contract with them for export, and we'll see what happens when that expires. But I think I'm good until about September time, something like that, before things might change, but we'll see. But yeah, a good year otherwise. Another year that makes me glad that I got solar panels and battery storage. I just need to still get off the gas, like I've been trying to do for years, to get the heat pump and stuff. But next year, I'm hoping that I will get the opportunity to start replumbing the house and get rid of this silly one-pipe system that we've got and replace it with a 2-pipe flow and return system to all the radiators, so that hopefully we can be in a position to maybe get a heat pump next year. But it's still early days. It's going to be quite a lot of work to try and pull up all the floorboards upstairs in every room to put a whole new copper pipe down. So whether I actually manage to do it or not is a different story, but stay tuned for that. What else is there to say about 2024? yeah, seems like it wasn't as sunny as 2023. Um, let's hope that 2025 will be a bit more like 2023 and we get a lot more sunshine. Well, that's it for my stats for 2024. Let me know in the comments how your 2024 was, and I'll see you all in 2025. Oh, well, we're in 2025, but you know what I mean. And fingers crossed for a good year. See you all next time. Cheers.